A patient is claiming damages for negligence from a doctor. It is alleged that the doctor negligently failed to recognize the symptoms of the disease the patient was suffering from and therefore made the wrong diagnosis and prescribed inappropriate medication. Which of the following statements best describes the standard of care that the doctor should have exercised in this case? A. The doctor must meet the highest professional standard of leading practitioners. B. The doctor must act in a manner acceptable according to the standards of a rational and responsible body of practitioners. C. The doctor must act as with the expert witnesses whose evidence is accepted by the judge. D. The doctor must act on the basis of the latest research findings. E. The doctor must act in the way that the majority of doctors would act.
Okay, can we deduct? It's also a little bit properly drafted question. You can't straight away subdivide it into groups, you know, yes, no, and things like that. It's more like you have to deduct some answers. Can you deduct any straight away, Matt?
Yeah, I would rule out immediately D. Because it just doesn't sound right.
The doctor must act on the basis of the last research findings. Yeah, it's too far, I think.
Yeah.
What about?
Yes, it sounds weird as well. I'd say C, D, and E don't sound right.
I think E still can be. Because it's a little bit related to the right answer, I would possibly confuse between. So the doctor must act in the way that the majority of the doctors would act. Because it's about, the answer is about generally accepted practice, you know. It's about that by some, you know, can be by some body which regulates that or this profession or stuff like that. So responsible body of practitioners. So it actually can be about the majority, you know, of those who represent this profession. I would basically confuse between E and B, and I would deduct A because it's highest professional standard. I mean, it's similar to latest research findings, you know, what is the highest professional standard? That would be a good question, you know, to answer. So the right answer here is B. The doctor must act in the manner acceptable according to the standard of rational and responsible body of professionals. That would be the single best answer, which actually can be confused with the majority of the doctors. But exactly how it's stated in the case law, in the law, so it should be accepted by this profession, by the standard of some responsible body of practitioners.
Yeah, that's why I actually excluded E straight away, because it didn't sound too complicated to me. It sounded too simple. The case law will always come up with a bit of a convoluted way of putting things. So for me, B was kind of the answer, because must act in a manner acceptable according to the standards of a rational and responsible body of practitioners. I could definitely see that in a case, in a judgment handed down by a court.
Yeah, so that's also a consideration if something sounds too easy, but you shouldn't rely on that too. Maybe they can make, for example, they could make two answers pretty close to each other, and a simple answer can be still correct. You know, I think what I'm looking for is some sort of wording, some words which I saw in the law, like standard accepted by some reasonable body or things like that. This is really like coming from the law, which makes the direction. This is why I'm saying it's important to go through the cases. You don't need to know those cases, but you need to understand the factual scenario and sometimes some dicta, some phrases from that, which then used and, you know, maybe like a qualification point for the single best answer, because you have to find single best, the single.